everybody, to the Distill Buildings Technology Podcast, where smart buildings are
shaken, stirred, and data-driven.
And I am your host, Jason Shearer.
I'm your host, AK.
And today we're here with Jeff Beavers from NECA. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and look forward to learning and the conversation.
Yeah,
Glad
absolutely.
To have you.
Yeah. So Jeff, like one thing we always like to hear from people, not necessarily specific to the topic or like what we do today, but I'm always really curious around like career journeys. Like where did you start like in your journey, your professional career, ultimately like ending up at NECA where you are today?
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the conversation of what brought us all three together at this point in time. And so, Jason, I mentioned passing through Jackson, Mississippi to head down towards Pascagoula and then over to Hurlburt Field. That's the Air Force base there. So at 19 years old, when I joined the Air Force, I had a couple choices, and they chose one for me, and it was in telecommunications. I was a communications cable splicer. And so they did everything from splicing the cable itself to line construction, right? Climbing telephone poles. It's like I remember in basic training, to even get into our career field, you had to take a fear of heights test and a color blindness test. And so imagine they just put on some gaffs on your feet and say, climb up this pole. It only went up about 5 feet, but to me it felt like 50. But just to see how you do, and he also put on this belt, had you climb an antenna 60 feet up and see if how you behave. And so they said, okay, you passed. It's like, where does joining the cable come in? Here I'm doing these fear of heights tests, and so so as a communication cable splicer, anywhere from like 25 pair to 3,000 pair cable and fiber optic splicing. And back when you had to use a microscope and you had to manually move the fiber to splice it, and nothing was automated, right? Yep. And so it was a fascinating career field. And so since 19 years old, I've been able to stay in this career field, which I soon found out I was so diverse in the specialties and areas, not just the technologies, but from construction to installation to troubleshooting to switching to design and project management, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been able to do that, and it's just been great. So did that, got out, worked on the same base as a civilian contractor, and it introduced my world to contracting, what that means. But then soon after that, met my wife, who went to Germany, did a couple of years there. I worked for a defense contractor, AT&T Network Systems, doing things like, if you remember the old mini mainframe, there was an AT&T 3B2 computer. Everyone had dumb terminals back then. This was probably mid-90s. And when Cat 5 was introduced, I think people were installing a certified Cat 5 before there were even standards for it, right? So they would do a continuity test and say it's certified. But then, so we saw the advent of twisted pair with a thick net. So I was able to go from that to higher education, being like on plant maintenance and doing moves as and changes on via switches. And then probably the last 20 something years have been in the engineering or design side with MEP firms.
Yep.
A design firm here based in KC that you know about is Black and Veatch.
Oh yeah, big, huge design firm. Yeah,
absolutely, 100+ year old company, and then was in their federal department for a few years, and so and then fast forward about early 22 January-ish, when I moved over to NECA. They saw the CEO David Long is very forward thinking. Saw the rise of limited energy systems, and really saw that needed a voice, and to address that, not just for what our contractors can do with opportunities there, but to address things that are lacking in industry. Whether it's a skilled workforce, certifications, training, licensing, which may not be a popular topic, but and then outreach to the inspector community. They need to know this technology, so they accept it and help adopt it, and then outreach as well to the end user, so they understand what this technology is. And so, it's been a whirlwind of a career. It just seemed like a blur, but it's been exciting. So probably a long story to get to where we are today. So I'm
And
glad to be here.
that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So we typically, Jeff, get to know the audience by saying, thinking about what type of drinks they want, and I think your choice was the classic old fashioned. Tell us a little bit more how that goes.
Oh, I said classic old fashioned water.
Oh, old fashioned water. Nice.
Yeah, I don't
Yep.
need the coconut water or
Yeah.
the water with electrolytes or water with flavor. It's just tap water
Yep.
in my coffee cup. And of course, the
Yep.
older I get, gentlemen, the more it's like, okay, that water is the magic elixir that my body needs. And so, but today I've splurged a little bit with some sugar and some sparkly, and this is a ginger beer. Of course, I guess that's the key ingredient for a Moscow Mule. But anyway, I've taken the mule out and just kept the ginger beer.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's
That's
cool.
one of my wife's favorites is a Moscow Mule in a copper mug with ginger beer. Yep.
All right, right.
Awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit more. What's NECA?
Yeah, NECA. Well, NECA's been around since alternating current was was invented,
Yeah.
right? And so probably around 1900 ish, right? So we're into our 120th year of NECA. And then, but we also work alongside with IBW has also been around for 120 years when it was became a trade,
Mm-hmm.
and so from that history, I mean, our a lot of our history is not just the workforce, but it's driving safety
Yep.
codes and standards and things like that. So when alternating current was brand new, by the way, I'm going to chase a rabbit here. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
questions in 1900 when AC was brand new are the same questions we have today with POE, fault managed power, right? Because there was a thought about alternating current about slow to adopt because of the learning curve, it's new technology.
Yeah.
Because DC, although it had a short life, it's already had a foothold in the
Yeah.
industry. So it's changing the culture.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are, fast forward today with this revolution of a return to DC, but not our grandfather's DC. Now it's a safe form. So uh, alternating current was brand new. Again, some of the same parallels because everyone is trying to get in on this new industry, right? There were no apprenticeships or
Mm-hmm.
building codes for electricity, right? So everyone and their brother, so to speak, was calling themselves an electrician wiring up buildings,
Electricians. Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
we had to work to help to create the very first ever like fire code, electrical code, and that's our history today. Heavily involved with the National Electrical Code, as well as standards for best practices, and then not just in arc flash or bonding grounding. It's stuff like microgrids, energy storage, right? We're creating a standard NECA 726 on fault
Mm-hmm.
managed power
Oh yeah.
installations. Yeah, and then we have a NECA 500, which is lighting, but we're enhancing that to include POE lighting and automation. So right, so we're evolving, uh, trying to do our best to lead the industry for safe communities and safe adoption of these technologies. So, hey, if it delivers a power or signal, we like to say that we're experts in it.
Got it. And the genesis for NECA 100 years ago was really just to put some structure around safety and standards for AC current.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The same holds true today. Is a bad install will be the reason why technology is slow to get adopted.
Yep.
It's not the technology's fault if it's done poorly and there's the GFCI is not working, or in this case POE lighting doesn't work because of poor installation. So that is the
Mm-hmm.
genesis of it.
Yep. Cool.
Safe but
What
high
and
performance.
yeah, and what is your specific role? NECA, I imagine, Jeff, is a pretty large organization given how long it's been around, how many different companies and individual like electricians are NECA represents. What is your specific mission at NECA?
Yeah, well, I'm the executive director of network
Hmm.
integration and services, or some would say, "Oh, you're the low voltage guy at NECA." So I'm
Yeah.
giving a voice to that industry. I mean, as you can imagine, the big brother is the electrician,
Yep.
with the telecommunications or the limited energy being the little brother. Although they've been
Hmm.
around for as long, the telegraph
Yeah.
has been around probably said long before AC was here,
Yep.
but it's always been more for entertainment or amenities, right? But now we've seen this issue of now with limited energy being part of mission critical and life safety. So that's
Hmm.
really my goal here, my uh, uh, role at NECA, right?
Yep.
It's outreach to our contractors, right? We have members in every state, and of course, outside the continental U.S., is making them aware of opportunities out there, as well as educate them on these new technologies and trends, but also working with our government relations folks, right?
Hmm.
Because when it talks to regulatory issues, right, cybersecurity, those are big
Yep.
issues. Trying to get in front of them to create awareness. Hey, we need to do something about this because I think about that quote from you remember Dr. Ian McCallum
Yeah.
from Jurassic Park, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, or and I'm gonna butcher it. Say y'all were so focused on if you could do it, you didn't think if you should do it, right? So we
Yeah.
have
Right.
all these.
Yeah.
Our industry is recognized by the federal government as an essential. It's a critical industry, but
Yeah.
yet to many the people who dole out the money, it's still like
Hmm.
entertainment. It's Netflix, it's email, but no, it enables other critical industries,
Yeah.
transportation, right? Healthcare, banking, and so it's raising awareness that this is a critical industry, and we need not only workers, but we need technical competency
Hmm.
and technical competency of designers, the installers, the maintainers, the inspectors, and as well awareness to the end users to where they make informed decisions and not just go cheap, right? Because
Yep.
there's nothing in the world that can't be made cheaper and sold for less, and that's a pitfall for our industry.
And does that give obviously NECA members what has been their, I would say, their opinion or their reaction to the conversion of IT and OT, knowing that obviously to your point, 100 plus years ago we were trying to converge into AC, and now we know that we're trying to converge back into DC. What has been the reaction to from the members?
Yeah, I think it's if you talk to them one on one, or if it's not a diverse group, like half of our contractors do structured cabling, or they're in in low voltage of some sort, so they see it. I mean, if if you come from the IT and telecom side, we've seen
Hmm.
nothing but convergence and rapid change, right? It's nothing new. But if you're a traditional electrician, where it's still bonding and grounding, arc flash and conduit, and
Hmm.
you're so busy with that, it's hard to see beyond this year, 3 to 5 years from now, of how things are changing because we're so busy, right? So
Yeah.
I think the reception, AK, is either some are seeing it, and we have some very progressive contractors across the country that have many and diverse offerings within their company, from line builders
Hmm.
to electricians to residential to data centers to 5G build out. So they a lot of them are very progressive, and they see the opportunities because this our industry is so diverse
Hmm.
with our specialties. Some are only in healthcare,
Yep.
with healthcare
Yeah.
technologies and nurse call, right? So it runs the gamut. AK, it's kind of hard. Some see it and embrace it, and they're forward thinking. Some are just so busy with their day to day that they can't really plan uh, 1 year out, because a lot of our contractors as well, AK, they're a smaller firm,
Hmm.
Right.
so they're running the business, but they're also turning screwdrivers, right?
Yeah.
And so they're just so busy with a tremendous amount of workload. So it's across the
Makes sense.
board.
Yeah.
And one thing you talked about, Jeff, was this concept of limited energy.
Yeah.
In previous episodes, we've had conversations with like Rona Davis at Bolt Server and Mahmood at Panduit, and
Yeah.
we've gotten an idea around class 4 power, fault managed power. But I don't think that we've really heard much about like this classification of limited energy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, it's just like how we've tried to change on the IT side. Is a voice, is a data, is a video? Well, it's all data.
Hmm.
Is telecommunication still a current term? And sometimes people think of telecommunications as the telephone, but
Yeah.
telecommunications is you bring something far near. So it's still a good term, but it's trying to stay relevant with technology. But the term uh, limited energy really makes parallels with the National Electrical Code and some of the language that they're using in there, so that we have continuity in our terminology. If you go to different chapters with NECA or our contractors from New York City all the way to the West Coast,
Hmm.
you'll see there's low voltage, there's voice data video, there's sound and comm, there's teledata. Well, it's all under the umbrella of limited energy now.
Hmm.
And low voltage rolls off the tongue because we do that, but really low voltage is like what, 600 volts and under. So it's not really telecommunications or 48
Hmm.
volt DC. So we're even just trying to change that to
Yeah.
stay current. But just like if you're a structured cabling contractor and you say, I want an RJ45, and you say, oh, you mean an AP8C? It's like
Yeah.
you're talking the same language, but we're just trying to have some uniformity to keep up with what's in the code. So
Yeah.
hopefully that makes sense about limited energy.
I think so. So it's
Yeah,
basically trying to take all of those maybe new and old technologies and group or organize them a little bit better within the code structure.
that's correct. So
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
inspectors know what we're talking about when we say limited energy, right?
Hmm.
I mean, if you're saying, hey, inspector, well, I'm ready for you to look at my VDV cabling.
Yep.
And they go, what's VDV? Oh, that's limited energy, right? So
Yeah.
it's consistency across the board, no matter if you're a designer, installer, end user, or an inspector,
Hmm.
right? So that's the goal.
And are we
Got it.
anticipating that this limited energy would be the future of how infrastructure, at least commercial buildings, or how the infrastructure in commercial building would be designed and implemented? Is that the plan? Knowing that in short term or near the future, we would have limited energy is the only way to transport energy and data across uh, points A to B.
Yeah, I think so. The only question is, it's going to be 5 years or it can be 20 years,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we've already seen it's a viable source of power delivery. It's recognized in the code, and the number and types of devices that can be powered with a limited energy source,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if you look at a household, a residential household, if you probably three-quarters of those devices are already DC powered with a with a circuit board, right? Those are
Hmm.
DC.
Yep.
And then it's a great question, AK, because look at this. I posed this question to some folks. Is this the path for a global standard? Because, right, there's like, what was it, 15 types of plugs for power, all
Plugs.
these NEMA
Yep.
plugs. And
Yep.
then, but if you go to Tokyo, I had this conversation with Tyler Andrews a couple of weeks ago. If you're in a Marriott in Tokyo and you have Wi-Fi, it's the same as Wi-Fi in
Hmm.
Austin, Texas, right? Or if you have Ethernet, that Ethernet plug, IEEE is a global standard.
Yep.
The 8P8C or RG45 is a global standard. The USB-C is a global standard. I think in Germany, right, they just mandated maybe last year that all new mobile devices are going to have USB-C.
Hmm.
And so how do you couple that now with fault managed power, right? So you have fault managed power as a backbone, and then you have PoE for the horizontal to end devices. Because then I also had this question here about the C19 plug
Hmm.
that you have on a back of appliances, your TVs, right? You could already do that with fault managed power. And
Yep.
most people, if they're traveling, they just want USB C for their docking station. So I think that the long story short, it's a great discussion. I think this is a technology that could do, probably, if it's not a global standard for everything, it can do a lot
Yeah.
of applications globally. And so, you know, uh, I think about this, going back to that history of NECA. And we have a book that calls it's an old book now, but it came out 20 years ago. It was 100 years of NECA, and it talked about when AC was brand new. They said that there's a quote in there that said it set the path for rapid change. Rapid change in 1900 is not the same as rapid change in 2020, 2030.
Yeah.
Right. So that coupled with the fact that there's not enough energy to do all these things that we need for electricity.
Hmm.
Specifically for the US, we aren't creating any more energy, but we're putting more demand on the grid. So you think about that, plus globally, it's very appealing for
Hmm.
this to become these limited energy sources, aka that you mentioned, as a standard or maybe the first choice. But so the only
Yeah.
question is the rate of adoption.
Yeah, five years
How
or 50 years for sure. And I mean, as a both a consumer and manufacturers, the idea of having global standards for for power delivery, whether that is in an RJ45 form factor or a USB-C form factor, that's pretty attractive from a supply chain standpoint. And I think we're all like reeling, with supply chain issues, over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, if you didn't have to have a custom solution for every customer across the globe,
Hmm.
right? And it's all a C19 plug, for example, a
Yep.
C19 plug from fault managed power, and then you put everything with a RJ45. It really
Hmm.
simplifies the process there for sure.
Yep.
totally. I think we're going to get there, and my bet it's less than 5 years. We'll be at the global adoption,
Yep.
and then I think the rate can be dependent on obviously how much the I think the components and the products needs to change, but I think the global adoption should happen in less than 5 years. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff? Give it a number.
Yeah,
That range of 5 to 50 was too long.
It's a
well,
pretty big spread. Yep.
it is spread, but if you figure 20 years is nothing these days because
Yeah.
POEs are already 20 years old. I always try to make parallels to if I was here during the horse versus automobile era, it would
Hmm.
have seemed forever. Now we just think it was a blink and it was gone. That was probably a 50-year process from when the automobile totally replaced the horse
Hmm.
as a primary, but it really only took 10 years for the
Yeah.
automobile to replace the horse as the primary mode of transportation.
Yeah.
So although that era is claimed as 50 years, it's really only 10 years.
Yeah.
And that was what early 1900s.
Hmm.
Right.
So but that's really I mean we can look at the US. I'm sure some countries AK may advance quicker because they probably have fewer barriers, or maybe some are improving and they leap to fault managed power and
Hmm.
PoE versus. I mean, if I look at broadband, and there were countries like in Asia that had fiber to the home long before the U.S. had, but yet we were so how far advanced with technology. But it was
Hmm.
part of it was a culture change, and the fact that we had all these telcos, and they had the model right that they used to uh, lease you that beige phone all the way to the desktop, right? And
Yep.
then they had you locked in for years. Why would they? What's the incentive to improve the infrastructure with
To
fiber to the
change.
home,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
there are some countries that are probably going to lead the way. I think what we're seeing in Germany with them saying, "Hey, we don't need these travelers to have a whole kit of USB cords and
Hmm.
adapters. Let's just go with one." So I think that brand part of that cycle of adoption when you have these major brands are adopting
Hmm.
this. Like you have these brand names in the U.S., like the Marriotts are looking at these new technologies, right? So
Yeah.
people have a comfort level when they say, okay, they trust it. Maybe I could trust it too. So you see some nations now,
Yeah.
Germany and others are going to look at this because it's not just a cool thing, but the fact that they want the data,
Yep.
right? That inherent data capability is going to be a driver, plus the fact that it's a way to find energy.
Hmm.
I talked about that too. Again, with us not creating any more energy, how are we going to solve these problems that require a lot of energy? And it's being wise with these solutions, and of course, these end devices that require less power. That's how you find energy. It's like
Yeah.
digging through your pockets and you go, "Oh, here's a quarter,"
Yeah.
right? So you're going to find it by being smart with how we do these technologies.
Yeah. One thing you talked about, and I know we use like the, like industrial revolution or, horses to automobiles a lot. In those transitions, there were major disruption to trades. Where
Yeah.
do you see, changes or dynamics in the electrical trade today as far as, skilled workforce and, volume of like new talent coming in, and how does that affect this transition from, from AC to DC or to limited energy?
Yeah, it's a perfect storm of. Think about this. We've for decades we've been talking about this lack of interest in trades,
Mm-hmm.
right? The path to success was a 4-year degree, and people were stepping over themselves to get into debt to get a degree.
and
But
and,
we're
and and
seeing
not just electrical, right? Like all trades, like
every
electrical,
trade
plumbing,
exactly,
construction. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
now there's this renaissance of trades. It's very appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Micro has done a good job, right, with his thing about this, and
Yep.
so great. There's a new interest in trades, but not enough workers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I also look at this book. I think it's called the. It'll come to me,
Yep.
but it talks about Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that the fact that there are 6 to 7 million working age males in America that
Mm-hmm.
are no longer in the workforce. They're not unemployed. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're just no longer out there looking or available,
Not participating
not
in the workforce,
participating.
basic. Yeah.
At the same time, we've had all this rapid growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
1,000 new data centers plus all these AI data centers, these modular data centers for edge computing,
Mm-hmm.
right? EV charging, right? And all these technologies. And great, you have interest in trades, but not enough workers. And so, how do you recruit them, first of all?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you train them? Because I liken it to this as like, hey, I love concrete, but we're not in the concrete industry. We're in
Yeah.
technology, right? And so it's hard to do a formalized curriculum these days in a rapidly advancing industry. So those partnerships with manufacturers like yourselves are so important for
Mm-hmm.
that real time education and training. So it's workforce. It's one thing. It's recruiting. It's attracting the potential workers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's developing them, but also recognize that we can't train them the way that we did it before.
Mm-hmm.
With the advent of automation, plug and play. I talk about that time when I learned how to splice.
Mm-hmm.
Not that long ago, that was a very
Yeah.
manual thing. We had this fusion splicer that fit into a briefcase, and a lot of trial and error. And now it's automated, so the learning curve has been reduced significantly.
Mm-hmm.
You add that with plug and play copper and fiber assemblies, right? I think some manufacturers say it took probably 80% of the labor out, and there's less margin for error. So we don't have to necessarily. Yeah, it's good to know some of those basic steps,
Mm-hmm.
but is that necessary if it unnecessarily prolongs them for what's here? Kind of like spending a lot of time on a 66 block. Well, people don't use 66 blocks for gig or PoE anymore. So it's nice to know, but it's not necessarily a need to know. And so it's attracting them, it's developing them. And you're right, Jason, it's not just electricians or limited energy workers, it's every industry. And I'm thinking about the truck driver industry, right? How now there's autonomous vehicles going between Dallas and Austin, Texas, right? These are tractor trailers, right? You're seeing now with pilots, air traffic controls. Now they're talking about virtual air traffic controls.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, it solves one problem, but it creates another problem because now you got this mission critical stuff that's on the network,
Yep.
right? Installed by who? It's your guess if they're competent
Yep.
to do the work. And then I'm even hearing like physicians. So it's not just trades, it's even physicians. They're talking about 30,000, upwards to 100,000 physician shortage in the next decade. But also it's going to open the door for things like virtual remotely performed surgery. Again, it's another application on the network, and that probably segues into another conversation. Is these not just entertainment or voice or data? It's mission critical applications on that same network that we have today. So
That's
it's a
that's
great
fascinating.
challenge.
So, Jeff, if you
Yeah.
had one word to the new generation that's joining the electrical force, what would you tell them?
Yeah, it's not your grandfather's electrical force industry, right? I think that the future, that there are some that I talk about this with some of my recruiting partners. When you talk about esports, the esports community, right? They say, what's esports? Well, it's gaming community. And every school district is going to have an esports program because it's all inclusive. And I'm telling them that's a demographic that understands refresh rates, latency. They know what the cloud is. They know what hyperscale data centers are. That they just don't know that there is a career field to design them or install it, right, or maintain it. So it's some new targeted outreach to them, right? Again, you don't have to choose to be to face shock hazards or arc flash. Maybe you want to work on a computer and do a network configuration, right? Just to turn the lights. Maybe you want to do fiber optic cable or work on a 5G system. So it's really, it's helping them envision what the electrician is. It's technology. It's not just circuit boards and transmission lines. It's the cloud. It's connected cars. Although it's the infrastructure that supports all those things that they already deal with on a daily basis. So hopefully it's that. AK, it's telling them what it is, but it's also trying to reach them early, because we have to influence the parents as well and the school districts. Because again, I think that there was an incentive for the school districts to not talk about trades, because that's what the parents don't want to hear about, right? So they're driving them to college, but yet there's this world of opportunity out here that's high paid and it's in demand and it's critical infrastructure. So it's a needed culture change, AK. But it's that message, I think, that we try to do as often as we can.
Yeah. So NECA. So the one takeaway I have, Jeff, is you guys have a lot on your shoulders from an influence standpoint, right? Like you're influencing new code creation, code adoption, like outreach to new people coming into the workforce, getting to parents and schools. Like, is there anything that I missed, or is there anything NECA doesn't do from an influence standpoint?
I think you're right. It runs the gamut. Like if you go to our headquarters in DC, we're in DC because of the influence of the leadership, whether it's with governance or codes and standards and outreach, working with the Department of Labor. One of those things, going back to vendor relationships, and it's so important. I look forward to having more discussion with you and to see how we can, because we're all in this together. We need laborers and workers, but we need a competent workforce that's agile and is curious. I think that in recent news, you probably saw that Google and NECA and IBW and our electrical trade alliance are collaborating with a lot of education funding, because who's going to build all these new data centers? Google's just one, right? There's the Meta. There's all these other data centers, right? There's even American Tower, who builds cellular towers. They're going to do 1,000 micro data centers for edge computing. So you need people to build that, and you need to train them. So there's a partnership there to help recruit and to help train. And so people may not know what the National Electrical Contractors Association is, but they said, "Oh, I've heard of Google. I've heard of Cisco. I've heard of that," right? And so we collaborate, and it's like, okay, we try to work together to recruit and develop and retain them for the long term.
And part of that initiative, Jeff, is tell the audience about your journey into your own podcast that you created, and how you're trying to amplify this message using this type of platform to get everybody to basically get educated on what you do and how does the association actually drive membership and education, etc.
Yeah, it's look at every avenue you can to get that message out. Yeah, I'd mentioned whether it's one person in an elevator or at the ballpark, but it's the method that you get that out there. We have printed magazines. We have the Electrical Contractor magazine with like almost 90,000 subscribers or readers.
Wow.
We also have our line magazine and safety magazine. But even that, like any other publication, is looking at, okay, is paper or printed the future? So we have an opportunity, like many of them, transition from printed to electronic. To now it's like, you know what? Everything's electronic because that's what people want to see, because they're overwhelmed with stuff in their mailbox, and they want it in a digital format. But also with the podcast, I mean, it's like in our society where I'm sure there are some statistics about this, but we joke about how, at least in the U.S., I think most of the youth want to become a social media influencer. But
so you're going to be you're a social media influencer now, Jeff, right?
I guess whether you influence 2 or 2 million,
exactly,
you're an influencer, right? So that's the medium that we need. So it's just another medium to get the message out, whether it's technical learning or telling people about the industry, right? And I think that, one of the things we talk about, AK, is like, man, it'd be great to get in front of the gaming community. Again, though, those tech savvy candidates, no matter their gender or where they come from, it's about their intellect. It's not really climbing a ladder or carrying heavy equipment. It's intellect and curiosity and doing these things. So yeah, the podcast is just another way to get the learning out there, but also recognizing, even for their ongoing education, these podcasts are so huge. I mean, I'm at the gym and I'm no longer listening to like the AC/DCs or the Freedom Rock like my parents would listen to. It's podcasts, technical stuff, because we're so busy. And then the other thing, AK, and I look forward to your perspective here. I love long format podcasts, but it seems like in and out, these micro lessons are what the attention span is, at least in America, the United States. So it's always being agile, right? How do you get the message to the people? And I love that you mentioned there are stats that help you. The numbers don't lie, right? It's like, okay, we need to shift and do all audio only, or this duration is what we want. So it's just, again, at the future, whether it's learning new technology or learning how to get the message to the masses, it's agility.
Absolutely. And where can people find this podcast?
Yeah, they can find it out there on the NECAnet.org. There's a page for systems integration. It's right there. It's called Podcast. It's connectivity powered by NECA. We have some other channels. You probably see it on LinkedIn, some YouTube, Vimeo, things like that. And probably need to expand the channels that we put that out there to, and also this cross promotion.
Yeah, that's excellent, Jeff. And we'll definitely add a link to the show notes to the Connectivity podcast. So thanks again for coming on today. I think there are probably a lot of our listeners that maybe don't know about the mission of NECA. So hopefully this is good for everybody to get up to speed on the mission of NECA. And we're looking forward to seeing you. I think by the time this airs, we will probably have all seen each other at Realcomm in Savannah. So thanks again for coming on, Jeff. And everybody out there, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the show notes where we'll have lots of information around the Connectivity podcast by NECA and the National Electrical Contractors Association in general.